So, welcome to the new episode of Let's Talk. As always, I'm Hotel Nerd, and I might screw your name up, so apologize for that.
All good.
Is it Suge Night or is it Suge Night?
It's Suge Night.
Suge Night. Okay.
Yeah, so you can just call me Suge, but yeah, it's Suge Night.
Okay. So, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thank you for inviting me on to talk some magic. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
always
That's
nice.
the whole premise of the show here. And if anybody else wants to join in as we're going, by all means, we'll pull other people in here and get them on video too. So, the obvious question out the gate is, what was your initial foray into Magic the Gathering?
My initial foray into Magic the Gathering is when I was probably 95. So I am 37 now, 20, so 15, so 95. I'm trying to do the math. So I was about 11 or 12 years old when I was introduced to Magic at just a shop that was around the corner from my house, and I would
Nice.
go over there and hang out and play, and that was my initial first run. It wasn't as serious then when I played, but I just was there to hang out and you know just hang out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Mine wasn't through a magic shop. It was actually a friend of mine through high school that got me into
Okay.
it. Because initially, a friend of mine, a different friend, was trying to get me into the old Dragon Ball Z card game because I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. Like,
Nice.
you can throw Dragon Ball Z trivia at me and I could probably answer it. If not, I'll get there like within 5 minutes. Because anybody that's a Dragon Ball fan knows there's a shit ton of information to try to remember, especially now with Super, with all the universes that they introduced. But neither here nor there. So my friend went and said to me if I was interested in doing the Dragon Ball Z game, why not try this game called Magic the Gathering? So I figured I'd look into it, and he taught me how to build a deck. And pretty much the rest is history. That was pretty much my initial foray. I got into it the Mirrodin set. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what year that was. I think it was like early 2000s. Yeah, it would have had to have been. It would have been like 2003 that I jumped in initially.
Nice.
And
Yeah, I jumped in right from the beginning when it first came out, I think. From what I remember. So long ago.
well, then it was a couple years after I got into it and I started building the collection, and I went down to my uncle's who lived like the next town over, and I said to him, hey, have you ever heard of this game called Magic the Gathering? And he looked at his wife and he goes, holy shit. He goes, dear, you never guess what he's into. And turns out he was a day oneer as well. And he used to play with a gentleman in the town that I live in now. It's called White Knight's Game Room. When I'll put a description and a link and everything down at the bottom of the video here after we're done, being I brought them up. But Eric, who's the owner, was like one of the elites here locally.
Okay.
And so, me being a smug teenager, oh, I want to play this guy. I want to see how good I am. Because, like, amongst my friends, I was about mid-class. This guy wiped me out turn one. Like, he literally played every single card in his deck. I will never forget it. It was I want to say it was a blue artifact. I know there was artifact involved. I think it was blue artifact. I could be wrong on that. And if Eric watches this video, I'm sure he'll correct me. But he wiped me out. Like he stomped a mud hole in my ass. Turn one did like 300 damage and played every single card in his deck and never once played one land.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't know what card that is. I would have to get a better description, but there's cards out like that. I have played decks like that where I've gone off on turn 3. I've done actually really good in tournaments with decks like that. But there's so many cards, there's so many different combos now. Since back when Magic first started, there was no actual rules like there is today. Even when I came back to playing, because I stopped playing when I went to high school. And I didn't play for years. And then one day when I was walking from the store, I seen a comic book shop and they said it had Magic on it. And I went in and I said, "Oh man, Magic's still a thing." And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a big thing now." Because I remember when I played when I was younger, they would say about these tournaments, going to these tournaments, but they weren't really big. You could maybe go and there'd be like 30 people in these big tournaments. So when I went into this comic book shop, they were like, "Yeah, it's gotten really big." So I bought a starter deck. Never opened it, never played it. Totally forgot about it. And then a couple years later, again, I was at work working overnight, and I happened to put in Magic the Gathering, and this tournament came up, which was the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh crap!" And they're like, first prize is like 30, like what was it, like 50,000 or something like that, was some high number. And I was like, "Oh, what the hell?" I was like, "Magic gotten this big," so I started watching. Well, it was I can't pronounce this damn name now. Like I had it in my head, but it was Sifka versus Watanabe. Watanabe's from Japan. Sifka is from the Czech Republic, and Sifka was on a deck called Eggs. And I'm just watching, and it's this complicated deck, and I'm just like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "This is not Magic." And I'm like I'm looking at it. I'm like, "This is not Magic that I played." So I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm gonna go and find out what's going on." So I ended up going to a card shop in Long Beach. Ended up meeting a lot of my friends there. But I went to a card shop and I walked in and I said, "Hey, I want to play Magic again. I used to play when I was younger. What's changed?" And they're like, "Oh, okay." So they started. Everything changed. It was way different from what I played. There was Planewalkers. There was all these things. And so it was fun. It was funny. And so when my second run started, I have 3 different runs basically. When my second run started, I just wanted to play and have fun. So I started playing, and like you said, go to card shop and just wanted to have fun, and it was awesome. Meeting people and then finding out the value, how much Magic cards were worth. Because I had found out about Black Lotus, I had found out about dual lands. I think I remember when I was younger, I had a dual land, but I don't know for sure. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, like these cards have gone up in value. And so that's where I started. I mean, I'll talk about my third run in Magic in a little bit, but that's where I started, and it was a lot. Like a lot when you get into Magic, it's a lot. Like Arena, if I had Arena back then, if I had Arena back then at that time, it would have been a lot easier to learn. But there was no Arena, and MTGO. If you had to have good internet, good computer to play MTGO.
And most of the time at that point it was AOL internet.
Yeah. Yeah, at that time, yeah. Then there was like Cockatrice, which was like a free version of Magic that you could play because you could play all the cards. And as the sets came out, they would put there'd be new downloads, so you could have the newest cards and you could play Commander. But it was so like you had to do everything, like triggers, whatever, like it was so like it was dependent on you. So a lot of times people would get frustrated if you didn't know what you were doing or playing slow. So it was very interesting. But I don't know if you played Cockatrice, but that's how I learned to play a lot of my decks, was through Cockatrice, because I didn't have Magic Online and I wasn't into Magic as much as I did become into it later. So it's very interesting. My journey in Magic is very weird because I remember that second part, and I was like, I wasn't into Magic. I wasn't competitive. I just like going and hanging out, and that was my
Yeah.
thing, which I think a lot of people do. Um, and then my third run of Magic became a little different, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah. So um, did you play Magic online? Did you play Cockatrice or what was other than that physical cards? Like, how did you get really deep into competitive, or just did you do it for fun?
I had multiple forays into Magic myself. The initial one was during high school, and then I dropped out when I met my wife and had kids and all. And now
Mhm.
I'm into my second swing of it now, and I've actually kind of sort of ebbed out a little bit because I have things going on like the channel and have some things on the personal front brewing.
Nice.
All good things, uh, and hopefully bigger, better things to come here within the years. Um, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but I mean, it's just one of the things people that if they watch and they know, they'll know either or. And I've been wanting to get back into it, but with the bigger things that I want to do and what I want to come, uh, my money has to be allocated to other places.
Yeah, and
So
Magic takes some money. Magic.
yes, yes, it does. So I am pretty much in hiatus mode again. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'll enter phase three again sooner or later. But I do have to say my favorite set though is a Mirrodin set. I wish that would have stayed because like that holds a nice spot in my heart because that's a set that I got introduced at and I got really prevalent with.
Okay.
Vraska was my favorite card at that time.
Nice.
Vraska was by far and between my favorite card. I remember that card very, very well. I wish it would get reprinted and put back into standard rotation because I have so many ideas for that card with cards that are out now. There's so many cards that could complement that card.
Yeah.
Uh, because I wish the slivers would come back. Like I really wish the slivers would come back hot and heavy. Like not
Yeah, my
necessarily
buddy made a
slivers.
my buddy made a modern slivers when because slivers had came back in I want to say
Modern Masters, I
let's
believe it was.
no, it was standard. They came back for standard. It was God, which one was it? It was 2000. So I want to say 2015. So maybe 212, 213, 214. One of those origin or maybe even Magic Origins. One of those sets had slippers in it, and I had a buddy that made standard slivers, and he even tried to make modern slivers because when I got because I miss Mirrodin, I miss Avacyn, I missed all those sets. The Mirrodin block, I missed everything. I didn't come back until Return to Ravnica. Is when I
Oh,
came
okay.
back and I started playing standard, and this go and that's when I like came back and I was playing for fun. Would go play Friday Night Magics and everything like that, and it was fun and I had a good time and everything. But they were having these tournaments on the weekends, and I would play and just get smoked. Like I just be like done. And I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, is it something? Is it me or what's going on? And I remember I met a lot of friends there who I'm still friends with to this day. Who was actually I went to one of their weddings a couple years ago. That's how close of friends we became. There's like five of us. But then I met this guy. His name was Tim, and he was like, man, he goes, if you want to get serious, like I can help you get serious. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I want to get serious. And what back then you you would share if you met a group of friends, you would start sharing cards, in order to like alleviate and to alleviate some of the pain of how, like you said, how expensive Magic was. How you're saying, you gotta, and so you would meet friends, and so you would share cards. And so I met this guy, and so he started like teaching me more and more, got deep into it. And so I started going to tournaments every weekend. And I was going like every weekend, playing every Friday night. Friday night was like how to practice, and then weekend tournaments were just getting better. And
Yeah,
my first
doing the
top
grind.
8, yeah, doing the grind. And my first top 8 is where I met one of my best friends, Travis. Played this tournament, and this was at the time Bant was huge. There was a Bant deck running around where they ran a land that said if you pay 4, you can flash it any card, and you can flash in any card as if it had flash. Every card in your hand has flash, basically. So they were running around with Thragtusk. They were running around with this. It was a Loxodon, not Loxodon, but it was a Rhino that said whenever you gain life, you gain double. And so Thragtusk was like when Thragtusk enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. So this thing would make you gain 10 life. It was if you had a Thragtusk or this card and Thragtusk out. Then you were running the Angel, who says when it enters, target creature is exiled and then returned it to the battlefield. So you would flash that in because it already had flash, and you would bounce the Thragtusk. And Thragtusk also said when it leaves the battlefield, not when it dies, but when it leaves the battlefield, you get a 3/3 beast. So you would
Nice.
flash the Angel in, exile the Thragtusk. It would come back in. You would get a 3/3 beast, and you would gain another 5 life. And if you had the Rhino, you gain 10 life. So that deck was just nuts. And then they ran a bunch of utility cards to fill it, which were really good. And then it ran Sphinx's Revelation, which was play, I think it was double blue, white, X. You draw X cards and draw X life, and you gain X life. So this deck was just nuts. So at the time, I ran a black, white, red deck called, and if you go back now, they've changed all the names now, and I hate them. I hate the new names, but there is a card
Well, yeah, because
called
everything's
Dega.
politically correct now, which is
Yeah. So
I'm
there
not
was
even, not
this.
even going to get. Don't even get me on that tangent.
So there was this card back in the day called Dega, and I think it's Dega Priest or something like that. So it was a white creature, 1-drop white creature, but its abilities had using mountains or swamps. So I always would put Dega as my deck, and it would confuse the hell out of people because they're like, "What the hell is Dega?" So it was fun. It was awesome. I loved it. I love confusing people. So I ran basically Dega, which just had all these strong, powerful black red creatures. But then it ran a common. I think it was uncommon or common. I don't remember. And then I ran the Angel that you can exile and it comes back in. I ran a creature called Sin Collector. And what Sin Collector did was you look at target opponent's hand and you can make them discard sorcery or instant card. And it was a 3-drop. So you would do that 3-drop, and then 4-drop, you play the Angel on their turn, and it come back in the battlefield and it trigger again. So you can clear their hand out. So I ran this deck, and so this is the first tournament I ever placed in. So I get to top 8. It was like probably like 40 people. So I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I didn't think I was gonna do this good. So I made top 8, and I ended up playing my friend Travis, and I beat him game 1. And I wasn't supposed to beat him, but I beat him. I smashed him. So game 2 would have won, but I was so nervous because everybody was watching. I made a mistake, and he holds it to me every time. I mean, we've been friends now 6 years, and we talk about it all the time. I made a mistake where I took a card I should have. And he ends up beating me game 2, and then he just beats me game 3 because he was more experienced than I was. I wasn't as experienced as he was.
Yeah.
So I remember asking him after the tournament. I said, can you tell me how I played? Because this is the first time I've ever made top 8. And he's like, well, he goes, you made this mistake, and it was hilarious because it was like we were after that, we started hanging out, and we formed this group of guys. There's a couple other guys that we formed a group which was my friend Derek, my friend Shamron, Travis, our friend Steven, me, and then our friend Dave, who owned the shop that we would play at. So
Okay.
he became almost like our binder of cards because we would just talk to him and be like, "Hey, I need this card." He'd be like, "All right, here you go. Just bring it back to me." So we started traveling to tournaments. So it became then now okay, now I got to get really good. So I would go play at his shop Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays
Oh
every week.
shit.
If Saturdays and Sundays we didn't have a tournament to go to, I was at his shop playing Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, it
And we
basically
would
was like your
travel.
boxing dojo type deal.
Yeah. And all of us were there every Saturday and Sunday, practicing and playing and trying to get better. We started going to tournaments, and we all started top 80. We all started we started traveling together. We went to Arizona together. We went to Vegas together. We went. I didn't go to Oakland. Some went to Oakland. We just started playing all these tournaments together, and all of us were just doing good. And I started top 80 at tournaments, just showing up in top 80, standard and limited tournaments. Then I went to an open out here in California. There was a big store. It had a bigger following online because they would buy a lot of cards called MTG Deals, and they were always
Okay.
at the Grand Prix. But they had a shop out here, and they would have big opens like for the weekend. So the weekend they would start off like Friday would be like a standard open or a some kind of open. Then Saturday would be like two opens. It'd be like a limited series, a limited open, and then like a standard. And then Sunday would be like modern and legacy. So we went to that standard, and I did bad in the standard, but I went there to a modern open with a version of that eggs deck that I had seen that brought me back to Magic. Um, Literally told a judge what I was playing and got told, "Why would you do that? You're gonna make our life miserable." Because his deck was, if I could explain it to you. So I don't. Do you know who you know? Emrakul.
Heard the name.
Okay, so Emrakul. There's a couple versions of Emrakul, but this Emrakul is a 15 drop. I think it's a 15. It's 15 or 13. I don't remember. But it basically says when this comes into play, you get to take another turn. And this
Okay.
creature's a 15/15. So you get to take another turn. It's a 15/15, and it has Annihilator 5. So Annihilator says whenever this creature attacks, target opponent has to sacrifice equal to the Annihilator. So Annihilator could be 1, 2, 3. So Annihilator is 5. So you have to sacrifice 5 permanents when I attack. Okay. Now, the other win condition in this card was called Banefire. And Banefire says it's a red plus X. And it says deal damage equal to X. But if X is over 5, damage cannot be prevented and damage cannot be and this spell cannot be countered.
Oh,
So what the original eggs deck did was it sacrificed these artifacts and would cycle through your deck and get to this one artifact that said deal damage, I think 2 damage for 1 red. And then you would use other cards to put it back into your deck from your graveyard and then do it again. And it would you just cycle through the deck. So my version was there was a card called Clockland Ironworks, which actually ended up another version of Egg showed up a couple years ago in Modern that they banned it. But Clockland Ironworks said sacrifice an artifact, get 2 colorless mana. So what my deck did was we ran Lotus Blooms, which were the suspend 3 artifact that says sacrifice artifact. Bunch of white races. Okay, sure. Sacrifice artifact. Uh, Create 3 mana of 1 color. Okay. So your primary color was red that you needed. No, and I'm not white, homie. I'm Latino, so you sound stupid. So dumb. I mean, you can tell I'm fucking Latino, idiot. So you would make 3 colors. So your primary color you needed was white and red. You needed 1 red because Emrakul was colorless. So you ran. Do you know the Urza lands?
Yes.
Okay, so Urza lands. If you get all 3 power plant, tower, and mine, you can get like 10. You get 10 mana. So this deck can go off on turn 3. So if I played a Lotus Petal, you go on turn 3, but you had artifacts that could make colorless land. So you would go. Why do I have white accent? I don't fucking know, dude. And I am proud to be Latino, you fucking idiot. So sorry, I don't mean to cuss on your thing.
No, it's fine. He's just being a troll.
I know. So you would so you have ways to make color mana. So what you would do on turn 3 is if you had all the Urza lands on turn 3, you could play Clackline Ironworks and just start playing artifacts, sacking them, and then you had these 2 white cards, which was Face Reward and Open the Vaults. Open the Vaults was expensive, but it was double white and I think 4 mana, so 6 mana total. Is bring all artifacts that went to your graveyard back onto the battlefield. And then there was Face Reward, which was bring all artifacts, enchantments that went to the battlefield this turn onto the battlefield. So when you would sack Lotus Petal, you get it back. And because it came back to the battlefield, you didn't have to suspend it again. It just came back in. So you could sack it again for more color if you needed to. So you would try to get 1 or 2 or 3 of the face rewards consistently. And then you would just sack, and then till you can draw, because the artifacts you would play would be like draw a card when this artifact enters the battlefield, or when it exits the battlefield, draw a card. So you would sack it to Clockline Ironworks to make mana, drawing cards until you can get to either Emrakul or Banefire. But because it was turn 3, if you landed Emrakul, they had 3 land. So then you would just go, Emrakul, okay, pass turn. And it goes, it's my turn, swing, sacrifice all your land. You have no part. Now you have no board. And they would scoop. So I played a tournament with this deck and made it to top 8. I had so many people cuss me out. I had a judge cuss me out. I had 3 players cuss me out.
Why would a judge cuss
because
you
it was
out?
miserable. Because imagine playing Magic, and all of a sudden you just got to sit there and watch someone do something. You can't play. That's what this deck did. Because on turn 3, I had to start sacking stuff, drawing cards until I got to these 2 cards, and you just sat there going like this.
Okay, well,
and then once I got to,
I don't understand why your fellow player would go and be bitching at you, but the judge, like, what the fuck, dude?
Because judges had to sit. Well, because the judges had to sit there and watch you do it. Because if you screwed up, then they have to call the match, or they would have to be like, wait a minute, you screwed up, and so they hated it because they would have to come watch my match every time to make sure I didn't screw it up. Because they had a lot of count. This is the hardest deck I had to learn. This is the hardest deck I had to learn because you had to learn how to count correctly, how to figure out your mana if you didn't draw the right cards. Because a lot of times you just draw land, and you're like, you had to get to other artifacts. So you had to know when to sack stuff, how to do it. Have some diversity. There is diversity. What are you talking about? Man, what's going on here?
I wonder if they're asking if they can jump in.
Oh, she wants to get in. I'm sorry.
Oh Go ahead. Keep talking. Yep. I got this.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of the judges and everything were laughing, and it was fun, but they did hate the deck. And then a couple years later, another version of that deck came out and was winning in the Grand Prix, which was with Clackline Ironworks, and they ended up banning Clackline Ironworks out of Modern. And so that's kind of, I was like so happy. I was so happy that I got to play that version of the deck before my version of it before
they banned it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, all right. This person, yeah. Gotta love how election 2020 is interfering with our episode tonight. Anyhow,
well, I mean, I get it. I mean, there is things to talk about. I understand that, but come on, man.
this
Like,
isn't the time nor the place.
well, it's not even so frustrating. But yeah. So it was funny. It was funny as hell with that deck, and I actually was a lot better limited player until recently, until the last couple of years. Um, until the last couple of years, I was more of a limited player, and then I became more standard and modern. Really got into it. Played a lot of tournaments. Was top 18. I had a goal. I set a goal. I was going to try to get to the get to the Pro Tour. I did day 2 Vegas, but that Vegas trip was not to play Magic. That Vegas trip was just to go because of Magic, but it was to go get drunk. And I day
Nice.
2 absolutely smashed playing day 1 hungover because I had drank Friday night till 4 in the morning, and then the tournament started at 9. So and there's
So what
actually
he's
a video
saying
of me.
is if you're going to play a Magic tournament, do not go hungover.
Well, apparently I played better when I was hungover because I played like crap.
Okay, well then maybe you're onto something then.
Exactly. And so I went into I went out Friday night, didn't get back to my room till 4:30 in the morning. Played and day 2. There's actually a video. Justin, my co-host on Let's Get Ready, he actually brings it up. We'll bring it up and he'll commentate about it because I'm so hungover. I'm trying not to throw up. But the way I look mad and everything, but it was because I was so drunk still. And yeah, day 2, I ended up going 10-2 that day. And making day 2 and played in day 2, but didn't do good. I think I finished 256 out of 1,500 people at the Grand Prix because it was so big. They had so many people for this Grand Prix. They had to separate it into 4 tournaments. So there was 4 different Grand Prix going on. I think the limit was 2,000 per tournament. So I placed 256 out of 1,500 people. So it was awesome.
That's not bad. All right.
The comment master.
Let's check. Fans seem to. Comment master brings up a really good point.
Yeah, he does.
People still play Magic. Last time I checked, the fans seem to hate every set that comes out. And you got a good point. And the big one right now is the Walking Dead set that's coming out. People are having a damn fit because
the reason of that. Well, the reason of that is funny because it's part of Schmo. It's not part of Schmodown, but the Schmodown works with Skybound. Is because you can't get it anywhere else. You can only get it through Wizards.
Yeah.
So that's what they're turning that into is almost like because card shops were so prevalent with Magic. You could go to card shops, you would pick up your cards, you would be friends and everything. If that starts happening, card shops are going to go away, and you're going to just go buy from Wizards.
Yeah.
Now, thank God because of Arena, because we had MTGO, but MTGO was kind of expensive to play.
Well, if I remember correctly, it's been ages since MTGO was around. Didn't you actually have to pay just to sign on to that?
You didn't have to pay to sign on, but you had to pay to play. Like there was only some free ones that you can play, but you have to get the cards. You had to buy them because they were digital copies, so you had to buy the card. You had to get the cards. You had to own them. What is going on? Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just people trying to make noise.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, with MTGO, you had to buy the card. So there was a couple ways of doing it. When I was streaming a lot of Magic, there was a company that's out there that would let you rent the cards. They would let you rent the cards from them. So you would go because on MTGO, there's what's called traders. So that's how you get the cards. So you would go unless you buy packs. You go. There's a little slot and you click it, and then people have the cards for sale. So you would buy them, and that's how you get cards to make your decks or whatever. So
Yeah.
this other company used to rent them. So they had bots, and you would just go get the cards from the bots, and then you have to return them in a certain time. So like in that day, in a couple hours, the next day, whatever. That was one way to doing it, unless you just felt like buying the cards and investing the money. What Arena has done now, it's made it free, and you can pay or you can grind it out to where you grind it and get wild cards and create the cards to make the decks that you want. So it's become a little cheaper and everything. But yeah, MTGO was the way to go. And so going back to the Walking Dead stuff, you can't get those from a card shop. You can't get those. You can only get them through Wizards. And when people get them through Wizards, buys them, they're going to sell them on eBay or sell them wherever they're going to sell them. So it's making it hard on shops and making it difficult. Um, and that's kind of the controversy right now. Is like, well, we can only buy those cards through Wizards, and so Wizards is kind of getting a little. That's why people are getting upset at Wizards about it, because it's almost like they're cornering the market.
Yeah, and I totally get their point on that. I'm going to bring up Shane's comment here because him and we went to school together.
Oh, nice.
And let's see here. Anyone who I actually. All right, Shane, that's not English. Anyone who I actually do play Magic at one point, when Ben Smith used to go to charter school, he would bring decks to lunch, and we would play it, and whatever. I'm giving up reading this because I'm stumbling
No,
on
I
my
get what you're
words
saying.
now.
No, I get what you're saying, because that was the same for me when I was in middle school. But I was going to school, and a buddy of mine would bring cards, and that's how we would play. But we play like basically our own version. Like we knew the rules, but there wasn't that many rules back then when I played. Now it's like different. Like everything is way different than how it was back then.
Oh
And
yeah, I
so
mean, and I even noticed that myself. And what I was going to say to that comment that Shane was talking about, if he would want to get into Magic the Gathering, my best thing to tell people, and this is how I'm going to end up teaching my kids, is I'll download Arena for you.
yeah,
Go download Arena. Go to Magic the Gathering's website. I don't know exactly what the website is, but I'll put it down below in the description when we're done with the video. And for anybody that wants to download Arena, but if you're a beginner and you want to learn the ropes, that's the best place to do it.
yeah, for sure.
Is to play Arena and piss around on that for a little bit, take a couple losses, take a couple wins, and when you feel comfortable and you want to play with actual cards and go to your local game shop, I mean, that's how I would say to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy and it's free to play. So you
Yep.
can get into it and play for free. You don't have to spend money. Or if you want to spend money, you can. Like it's both. You could do it both ways. Um and so it's awesome. And it helps because of quarantine, because that's what's missing right now. You don't get to play
Oh yeah.
live. And even then, when you could go play for fun, it was just buying cards and everything was very not frustrating and hard, but it was like that's where your money went, because you would go
Yeah,
and
it's
spend
a very
like
expensive hobby to get into. But at
yeah,
the same
and especially if
token,
you're
if
trying
you get the
playing
right
anything above standard.
yeah, if you get the right cards, your expense does pay off. Like you buy $100 box, which is a full booster box. And I think it's been a while since I bought a booster box. It's what 36 packs to a box, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
So if you hit pay dirt on some cards, you hit some $25 cards, and occasionally there will be a random $50 card in a set, depending on what set you get. I mean, you hit pay dirt on one of them, you make bank. I mean,
yeah,
if you look at Talarian College on YouTube, he does box unveils all the time, and you get a good feel for what the value of cards are. He does anything, I believe it's $2 and above is what he counts, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And
Like when I started playing
I'll put his channel's description down below, link down below as well when we're done here. But he's a good one. You want to get some research on how much cards are and whether sets are worth buying. He seems to be the foremost authority that I've found. If anybody else finds anybody else that's more in the know than he is, by all means, shoot me a message and let me know. But I mean, that's how I would tell people to go: is do arena first. Then, if you want to get into cards, like we're saying, it's expensive. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah,
but
no, it's
there's
very
money to be
expensive.
had if you get the right cards.
Yeah. Or like what happened with me was I became very good at the game. So traveling to tournaments where I topped 8 was easy. It became easy for me because that's how when you would go to tournaments, you would win boxes. So if you pay $25 to play a tournament and by the end of the tournament you got a box, you made money. And what was cool about my friend that owned the card shop was I would just take my boxes to him and sell them, get cash, and then he would loan us cards. So I never had to worry about cards. So it was unless it was like super expensive, I never had to worry about it. I could always borrow it from him, and then play the tournament. I would pay, the tournament was cost $30, $40, $25 to play top 8, get a box.
Yeah.
So my deck I never had to worry paying for my deck. And I would just go and give him, sell him the box and then borrow cards from him. So it was a lot easier for me. But when I was friends with him and he wasn't loaning his cards, it was expensive. So you had to be good if you're going to tournaments. You just couldn't go play tournaments and be like, I'm going for fun and I'm just gonna, play and have a good time. Like, no, I had a top 8 or I had at least top 4 and make some money, on tournaments. I mean, the last tournament I ever went to, I scooped I made it to the finals and I scooped because I was tired because I'd been playing freaking 10 hours of Magic, 11 hours of Magic. But I walked out of
I'm
there.
sure that's a mental grind in and of itself.
Yeah, it was. And I made it to the finals. And then I told the guy, look, because it was credit, I was like, I'll give you the win. You give me the credit. He's like, all right. So I got $300 in credit, bought boxes, sold the boxes. And then basically in cash, I made $275. And I paid $25 a good. So I made $250 profit cash off that tournament. So that's how I would do my success. If it was a Grand Prix, I wouldn't have done that. Grand Prix, you're trying to get to the Pro Tour. I had told my girlfriend the last time, I said, look, I think I'm going to try to make one more run at a Pro Tour because I think I can get there. And then COVID happened. And so now I have no desire to go back to playing competitive Magic because I just play Arena, which is fun. But I remember all those tournaments, going to tournaments every weekend. Waking up.
But now with Arena, though, if you get good enough at Arena and you hit Mythic and you get an invitation, I mean, they do Mythic Invitationals.
Well, the problem with that is you got to get top 24 in Mythic. I'm Mythic. I've already made Mythic, but there's a percentage.
I've never even remotely got close to Mythic, so I have no idea.
It was a grind for me to get to Mythic. I made Mythic this year off of I got to Diamond off a red white deck. The dog deck because at the time everybody was playing rogues, the black blue deck rogues. So this deck counteracted that deck. Then when I got to platinum, I had saw a red black deck that was starting to dominate, and so I jumped onto that train, and then it took me to Mythic. And now, if you run around Arena, everybody's playing the red black deck. Now there's 2 different versions of
Everybody's playing Rakdos.
Yeah, everyone's playing Rakdos and everyone's playing the rogue deck. Those are the 2 decks.
See, my cousin likes to play Rakdos. I like to play Silencia. I like to play
Okay.
Silencia Angels.
Nice. Yeah. I mostly stick around. My colors are usually black red. I don't really care for control. I'm more of a mid range player. I've always been a mid range player. I don't really care for playing mono red because I just think that's a
Mhm.
cheap way to win. Um, and so my colors are always mid rangey to kind of controlly. Is where I've thrived. I've That's all I've ever played. Uh, when I've gone to tournaments and when I've done good. Like when I that tournament I went to was a 50, I want to say it was 50, 60 people at that tournament. And got to I actually played because they at that store shout out to Kingslayer in Fuller or in Fountain Valley. They used to uh show their a premiere table on Twitch. And so
Mhm.
I played the first round and the quarters and the finals all on camera. So that was another thing. I was tired as hell because I was playing on camera and I was just like mentally exhausted. Because I walked into that tournament with a version of a deck that everybody was playing, but I had switched out a few cards and just spanked everybody. Everybody I played, I spanked in that tournament. And then I played a guy that I had beat in the Swiss rounds, beat him, beat this other guy, and the final deck I was gonna play was a blue black deck, and I just didn't want to play it because I've beaten it, but it was so like mentally exhausting, and I just played 10 hours of Magic, so I was like, you know what? Give me the credit so I can leave, and we're good. And so I was like, all right, cool, you win. And he took the tournament because he got to play in another tournament, and I just took the credit, bought like three boxes, and then told him to another store and made like $275. So
Right.
yeah, it's fun. I mean, competitive magic is fun, but it's a grind. It's a real mental grind because you're playing
You
so
gotta
much.
have
You
the, you
have to
gotta have
play.
the you gotta have the mental prowess to want to do it. Plus, you need to have the time to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I
Not to
at that
mention the
time
fact
I
that you
was
have some green in your pocket to be able to do it too.
that too, or just good enough to make green, to pay for your stuff. Because I met a guy who made it made it to Pro Tours, made it through Grand Prix, and he doesn't work. He just goes and plays tournaments, but he was good
Oh yeah, because
enough to
there's
play.
money
He
to be
played,
had there.
yeah, but he played another game. I forgot what the game was called, but he's been successful in both Magic and the other game. But he bought a house with his money, his winnings, and everything like that. Like you can make money, but you got to invest the time. When we were just traveling, like I said, I was playing 2 days during the weekday, and then all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, always. And so
Don't mind me. I'm
um
just looking something up here real quick.
okay, no problem. Yeah, so I've
The last grand prize, just as a reference here, the 2019 World Championship grand prize was $1 million.
Yeah, yeah, it was a million in total. So I think first took like 500,000.
Hang on, I'll go in here real quick and I'll look because,
So I think
like I said, if you get into competitive, it's worth doing.
see
It's just
now what's Wizards has screwed up on is they've changed it. See, so before when you would go to Grand Prix, you qualify for a Pro Tour, which was the next Pro Tour, and those Pro Tours were anywhere. They would be in Hawaii, they would be in Japan, they would be in Europe, they would be in the United States.
yeah,
Now they changed it because they're tired of flying people. So if you win a Grand Prix, you're in the Grand Prix. If you win a Grand Prix, which is called the Magic Fest, you're in the Pro Tour closest to you. So if I win it in California, I can only go to the ones in the United States. I can't go to the ones in Europe. I can't go to the ones in Asia, India, anywhere.
yeah.
So because back in the day, yeah, because I had a friend that made it. He made it to Grand Prix Japan. And so they flew him
Oh
out to
wow.
Japan and he played in the Grand Prix. Yeah. So, but now they've changed it. So now you can see because there used to be a bunch of ways to make Grand Prix. There was which was called PTQs, which were Pro
Mhm.
Tour, or sorry, not Grand Prix, Pro Tours, which were called PTQs, were Pro Tour qualifiers.
Yeah,
And
I
there was
remember
one
those.
where I live at in California. There's one in Riverside. Was at a school and it was a big one. It was huge. You would get like 200 players.
Yeah,
And
the one that was always closest to me was Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah, and I would go to that one all the time because it was at a Riverside High School, and they would use the gym, and there'd be like almost 300-400 people playing. Real fun. They had a limited one. They have a standard one back in the day. So I went to those, and then I would go to Grand Prix. I went to a Grand Prix LA, and I walked out of Grand Prix LA with 3 sets of fetches because all I did was play side events. I walked out with 3 sets of fetches and $250 in my pocket because I played so many side events and was playing drafts and just opening fetches and winning them. And then you would win packs, and then you would just open those packs. And if you got cards you didn't need, you sell them and try to get back into more drafts. It was crazy. I loved doing it, but it was like you said, it was so much traveling, so much you had to have so much mental fortitude, and then you had to have some friends around you. And my friends that I had, some of them had stopped playing because of jobs and life and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, Comment Master says there is a YouTube who hyped it for Strix having the Dungeons and Dragons crossover set. And just said
the Dungeons and Dragons crossover set's the one that I want to see. I'm very, very curious about that one.
Yeah. So what Wizards has done is they've tapped into to people that stream Magic, who talk about Magic, who do podcast about Magic, and if they get a big enough audience, they will tell them like, hey, a lot of Twitch now does it because Twitch blew up, but before it was YouTube, and they'll tell them, hey, we will give you product if you talk about these upcoming sets. We'll give you previews. They do all kinds of stuff. So what a lot of the new Twitch channels, what they do is if they become popular playing Magic, Wizards will tap into them and sponsor them and then give them stuff, giveaways, stuff like that, and then say, hey, talk about our stuff. So
I would love if YouTube if Wizards would come across and like say this video pops off, not that I'm expecting it to, but if it would, and Wizards would like send me an email or comment on the video, be like, hey, we want to sponsor you. Absolutely, let's go.
Yeah.
Not even a question of a doubt. I will plug the shit out of your product if
Yeah, no,
kind of like Christian with Manscaped. I'll do that for freaking Wizards together or Wizards of the Coast.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And they were doing it for people. But that's if you haven't heard of Game Nights. Game Nights was a podcast that just started off as 2 friends playing. They would show their videos of them playing, talking about the cards, and now Wizards fully on to sponsor them. So if you've seen this new set come out, it's the Legend set for Commander. Jimmy Wong, and I forgot what the other guy's name is, but Jimmy Wong was just on Ben Bateman's podcast. He knows Ben Bateman from the Schmodown, and Ben Bateman's a big Magic player, but they are doing commercials for Wizards for the new Commander set because all they play is Commander. So a new Commander set just came out, and so Wizards tapped them because they have a huge following for Commander players. And so Wizards has no problem tapping into the community of Magic to sell product. It's just some of the things they're doing is people find it unethical. I don't know, because it's like I just feel I do understand the whole point of them only selling it not through stores. People being upset with that. But
at this point, with COVID going on and whatnot, I mean, it's like you said, a lot of your Magic shops, your local game shops, aren't open at the moment because of what's going on. So, I mean, they're kind of in a catch-22. They want to get product out. They want to make money. I mean, obviously, they got shareholders and whatnot that want money to be made. So, I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't type scenario. Like, for me, my local game shops are open right now in Pennsylvania. That being said, we're starting to ramp up with the virus again. So, I mean, 9 out of 10 opportunities we're probably going to get shut down before the end of the year. I can almost guarantee it. But, so, like, what do you do in that scenario?
Yeah.
If you're looking at as Wizards and you're looking at it from a sales perspective, I mean, I get the consumer, like you and I, being hyped and pissed about it. But at the same token, I mean, if you're the one pushing the product, you got to make money somehow. Now, if they keep doing it once COVID's over, then yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. You know, like you said, right now with COVID, it's really messed things up. A lot of these card shops are not going to survive, so we're going to lose card shops. So Wizards got to figure out, well, how do we keep our Pro Tours going, and how do we keep our Grand Prix going? They have had tournaments on Magic Arena, which have gone successful, and things like that. So, I mean, there's different things you can do. I don't know because I just, like I said, I've kind of taken a step back from competitive Magic, even though I do still play a lot on Arena. I've kind of just stepped back because it's just like, you know, it's so much money, it's so much time investment, you know, and then it's just like, is that what I want to be doing? And obviously, I'm doing more stuff like with the with Schmodown, Let's Get Ready, and all that stuff. You know, we're about to go through some big announcements and everything like that. So I just don't have the time to play Magic anymore like I used to.
Yeah. Now, this here is we were talking about the last World Tournament.
Okay.
So 13 through 16, because I'm going to be releasing this on audio too, so obviously they won't see this. But places 13 through 16 won 12.5K. So, I mean, you get top 16, you're at least walking away with $12,500. That's not a bad day.
No, not at all.
9 through 12 is 25 grand. 7 and 8 is 50 grand. 5 and 6 is 62.5 grand. 4 is 75 grand. 3 is 100 grand. 2 is 150 grand. And for first place, it's 300 grand.
Yeah, so 300 grand to play a tournament.
Having cardboard in your hand and playing a game, not a bad haul.
Yeah. Well, and also too, you got to remember how it works, especially with the Pro Tour. If you place a certain place, you get invited back to the next Pro Tour. You don't have to play Grand Prix or anything to qualify. You just make it to the next Pro Tour. So I think it's top 10. If you're top 10, you get invited again. So and then if you keep winning, like in top 10, you get invited. You can make like platinum status, like with the same within Arena. Like if you're platinum status, you get invited to every Pro Tour. And as long as I believe you do good, you just come back. So if you're just placing 10th every tournament and you're making 12,000 every, and I think there's 10 or I think there's like 5 Pro Tours a year, I believe. So if you're placing 10th at every Pro Tour and making 12 grand, five tournaments out of the year, so that's every couple months. I mean, that's more money than a good paying job. You know, fine. So if you're making $60,000, that's a good job. You know, that's a decent paying job to play cardboard, and that's not including if you go play Grand Prix. That's not including, and I believe if you're doing that good, you get what's called oh my, what am I thinking of right now? What's the word? Because I think Ben Bateman might even get him, but that's only because he's a celebrity. But they're appearance fees. You get appearance fees. So if you go to a Grand Prix because you're known and you've been in Pro Tours, which like I said, Grand Prix are Magic Fest now. The old version was called Grand Prix, but now they're called Magic Fest. But you get appearance fees. So you're like, okay, you show up for the weekend, we'll give you like 4 boxes of the next set. And like you said, with those sets, you take those boxes, and if you make good money, or you sell them. So if you're going to, and there's Grand Prix either every other weekend, I think, in different states. So if you're like, I'm gonna go to the Pro Tour 5 times this year, and I get paid to go to Grand Prix, so I'm going to go to 4 Grand Prix, travel and go to 4 Grand Prix, and after in each Grand Prix I make $300, $400 for the weekend. So you're making almost $70,000 to play Magic a year. That's amazing.
that's not
I
bad.
wish.
That's like you said, that's a good paying job. That's a job
Yeah,
for like
and
a
then
college
and now
student
with
coming right out of
Twitch,
college with a
and
bachelor's degree.
yeah, and with Twitch now, oh, I'm a good Magic player, so I'm gonna start playing Twitch on Twitch, and because I have a following now, I
You get
have thousands of people following me on
monetization, you get
Twitch. So
royalties
okay,
off of that.
cool, yeah, so cool. I can Twitch 3 days a week, then go to tournaments on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
You're just living a full paying job, but you have to be good at it. That's the thing. You have to be good.
Yeah, you gotta stay current too. And see,
Yeah,
with me having 3 little ones running around, I shouldn't even call them little ones anymore because they're really not little. But
yeah, I got my 2 with me.
it's hard. I mean, if I was just by myself, absolutely, I would look at doing something like this and travel the world and
and
like
literally
that.
you have to be by yourself, because if you have a girlfriend or a wife, they have to understand the commitment that you're pretty much not paying attention to them. You constantly got to be playing because you constantly got to be practicing. So imagine you're playing on arena every day, and then you're playing tournaments live, and it's the same as being a poker player, a professional poker player. The more reps you get in, the better you're going to be, and you got to play tournaments because you got to win money. So Magic's the same way. You got to constantly be playing, and it is a grind. It's fun. It's fun as hell, but it is a grind to play tournaments. It really is. It's one of the most exhausting things to sit there and freaking play tournaments all day, and it's just I have sat and played 12 hours of Magic. It's not fun. When sets would come out, pre-releases for sets were miserable. When you would go and play, when you would go play sets, pre-releases sets would come out midnight. So you would
I like
pay.
how they were doing it before COVID hit. I don't know if for you guys, but for us here, the way our local game shop was doing it, because they had approval to do it. I don't know if this was a overall thing, but instead of doing the initial pre-release at midnight, they were for like night 1, they were doing it at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon that day or the day before.
Yeah,
and it made it so much easier, and it was so much more accessible to people that way then too. So, because don't get me wrong, I like a good late night of Magic myself. That's not a problem. But I literally go to pre-releases, and I would see kids like 7, 8 years old at freaking midnight playing Magic. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're gonna be in bed
till 4 in the morning. Yeah, you would play until 4 in the morning. And the card shop I used to go to, we would play Friday night Magic, then we played a pre-release, go home because we would hang out. So we'd be like 5 in the morning, go home and sleep till 11, come back to the shop, play that pre-release, and then play the 5 o'clock pre-release, go home, come back, because you played all the pre-releases because you were trying to get the cards to
so
see
you can figure out formulas.
Spike. Yeah, you figure out new decks, but also if you got multiples of certain cards that spiked, you would be like, all right, cool, I got them already, because I don't have to pay for them later. Because I remember I had got some money, and when I started playing Magic, and Boris Reckoner, which is not even a good card now, it's like nobody plays it, but at the time it's standard, Boris Reckoners were like $40 a piece. So I had to buy a playset. So that was $200 I spent. Which now I look at the damn card, I'm like, what a fucking waste. Like, the card's 50 cents now. But at the time, it was so good in decks. It was a $40 card. So it was $200. There's card, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Jace the Mind Sculptor is $100 Planeswalker. And they reprinted it, and it still says in them fetches. Fetches are $20 a piece. The newer version of them.
And now Shocklands are the big thing.
Well, Shocklands always go up and down though, but they never really go over past 20. Fetches are what expensive, because fetches you can play. Shocklands you can play against all formats, but fetches
Yeah.
are the big ones because in Legacy and Vintage you played the old school duels, and shock fetches can get those. Shotguns don't, but their shocks are still good. Um, there was a Karn. There was the 4-drop Karn a couple years ago that almost hit $100. That was the only other planeswalker that hit $100 in standard. Jace the Mind
Yeah, I
Sculptor was the other
remember.
one.
I remember hearing about that. I
Yeah, that
wasn't
thing was.
playing Magic at that point, but I did hear about that.
Yeah, that Karn. I pulled like 4 of them, luckily, and I didn't have to pay for them, but they were almost like 50 bucks a piece. And then they shot up because they were showing, because it was a card that was in every deck. It didn't have a, one color that it had to be in. It could be in anything. Ugin, when they were doing this weird, you would get prize packs, and the possibility of getting alternate art Ugin was in. And at my card shop, I opened one and I sold it for $100 and 3 fetches. Which, so I sold it for $160.
Nice.
And so yeah, Magic is, if I could go back and get all my cards from when I was a kid, I probably fucking have money right now. Because I
Oh,
don't remember what I
if
had.
you saw my collection that I have right now, since my wife passed away,
Oh shoot.
first off,
Sorry
she
about that.
would have murdered my ass for as many cards as I have right now, because I I sucked myself into Magic when she passed away. That was my outlet for my grief. If I were to get a phone app, and God, this would probably take me at least 4 months just to do the fucking inventory, to be absolutely honest. It's that huge. If I had to guesstimate, I would say I probably at least easily have $5,000 in cards in value.
Okay, yeah.
Anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 in value in cards.
But you would sell, but if someone wanted to, if you were selling to the store, they only give you 2,000. I seen that the tournament I told you about that I went to. There was a guy I know that sold a lot of his stuff from back in the day. That shop had to stop buying cards because he ran them out of money. They bought so much stuff from him. And so they couldn't go to the bank to pull any more money, so they stopped buying cards from everybody. But I think he sold them almost $15,000 in cards. And now think about that. When card shops buy cards for you, they literally, it's the same as GameStop. The cards were 20, but they're going to give you 12. Or they're going to give you like 10.
They're going to want to make that $8 profit.
Yeah. So for him to sell them 15,000 in cards, it's probably worth 30,000, maybe 25. So yeah,
That's insane.
I've seen. Yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts.
That's
Cards.
one hell of a down payment on a house.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've been thinking about that, because that's one of the things that that's one of the moves that I'm planning on doing, is making that move. And I've honestly considered, I've thought about it a couple times today. That's when the thought popped in my head. It's like, I got all these Magic cards I'm doing nothing with. Wonder how much I could get for them, because that'd be a hell of a down payment on a house.
And you've had them since Meriden? You've had them since Meriden?
No, this is well, I have older cards, like going all the way back to Classic 6.
Okay.
And I might even have some a little bit older than that. I might have some revised editions and what have you. But the bulk of them are from guilds upwards.
Guilds of Ravnica?
Yeah. That's when I jumped back in. And guilds alone, I probably bought 7 or 8 booster boxes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I have like in my closet right here, I have like a box, like 3 boxes full of just common and uncommons. I always sold my shit. I was dumb. I never kept anything. When I didn't need it, I sold it. I didn't want it.
My thing is, because okay, just as a reference point, I use this as a reference point all the time. You've heard of the Little League World Series, right?
Yes.
Okay. I live 2.5 miles away from where the series is played. I'm in Williamsport.
Okay.
So Beyond Williamsport, it's pretty much like Amish.
Okay.
So there's nothing really around here. I need to find a card shop that is willing to buy my shit
Yeah.
because Eric isn't going to buy it because he, one, is struggling with everything's going on with COVID right now, and he's got things on his plate that he's working on to try to make his business better. So he doesn't have the funds to buy all of it, and I don't feel like putting them out like that. But at the same token, I want to find somebody to buy all my shit because if I can get a lot of money for all my cards, then that's a payment for a house.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will take all that money, drop it into an account, and not touch the damn thing, and be like, "Yep, this is house money." And when it happens, it happens.
There you go. I mean, smart idea.
My problem is I got to find a place that's going to buy them, and I got a feeling I'm going to end up having to go to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh to do it.
Yeah,
I
a lot
don't
of
want to
online
drive
places
3 hours
do
just to
it.
sell fucking cards.
Yeah, a lot of online places would do it, but then you got to ship it, and you're paying for shipping. It's all kinds of craziness. Yeah, you just got to find a shop that was willing to take them, and hopefully you have good value and stuff, and a lot of it, and they'll willing to take it.
Yeah, all my stuff's sleeved up. It's all in binders and whatnot, so they're protected.
There you go. Smartest way to do
But
it.
yeah, it uh, Comment Master. I don't know if you're still in here or not. If you are, I'm pulling this comment up now. He's saying about Caroline. If I'm pronouncing that right, I probably am not. I probably butchered the shit out of that name.
I think it's Caladem. Caladem. I don't know. I pronounced
Is
it wrong too.
coming out February 5th. I bet by December there will be an announcement stating that it will be delayed. Now, if
Maybe I
that
think maybe
is
fifth.
the next
I
set
think
that's
physically
coming,
maybe.
when's the Dungeons and Dragons set coming out? That's what I want to know.
I
Because
think
that's the set that I'm
that
looking forward to.
I think that set was announced like in the summertime. But I think because of Arena, that set will still come out on time, but not physically. Physically, it'll come out later, but on Arena, it'll come out on time because that they can release it there.
Yeah, I mean, if the sets are getting delayed, because I haven't really been paying attention the past couple of months because I got other things that I need to concern myself with. And like I said, I've
Right.
kind of backed out of the Magic front a little bit. That being said, the Dungeons and Dragons set has my interest peaked because I would not mind seeing what they do with that. But
Yeah.
I have really no other topics to talk about unless you have something that you want to talk
No,
about.
I'm good.
We're
No, I'm
over.
good.
We're
I think
over
I
an
talked.
hour.
I think I talked too much.
Oh no, you're fine. I enjoyed it. I like getting perspectives from other people because really the only person I have to get perspectives from is my cousin, and he doesn't really play that much either because he's a little pussy. But but that being said, I mean, anybody else? I mean, I would love to do another video like this with you. Talk more
Yeah,
about
let me
Magic,
know.
especially like I mean, even as new sets come out. If you want to do a video like this when new sets come out, and we just talk about new sets, I mean, I'm fine with that.
Sure, I'm always down to talk Magic. I try to talk as much as I can. I just haven't been able to because of the podcast with Let's Get Ready and everything. Just been so busy with that. We just did a interview yesterday with Coy, the manager of the.
Oh, I'd love to interview Coy. Coy's on my list of people I want to talk to so bad.
Yeah, we just interviewed him yesterday. We have this. I'm taking this week off of our Friday show because I have not missed a stream since we started. I'm tired. So I'm taking this Friday off. So I think Bador, Justin, and Ferris are all going to do a show Friday, a quick show going over the 4 free for all and talking about the team's tournament. But I'm taking the day off, and then we'll be back at it. We got some big interviews coming up. We just did the Real Rejects. That interview just came out on our channel. Koi will be coming out, I think, next Wednesday. We got some other people coming up that we're talking to, and then we have the 24-hour Kevin Smith's Smash-a-thon, which will be on a different YouTube channel, but all the reaction channels will be part of it that do reactions for Schmodown. They've been setting that up, so we'll be doing that.
Yeah, and speaking of Smash, this is the first video I've done since that news broke. And let me just say, it's not much that is able to bring me to tears by watching something online. And by God, did he got me. Like, to see him break and to know that he has a new child and he's just newly married, like, I mean, you went from the highest highs to the lowest low in an instant. Like, I can imagine to a point because of losing my wife, but from actually having to personally deal with it within your own internal self, like, I mean, kudos to him. I mean, if anybody, he's got a lot of reasons to fight. I'll just say that.
Yeah, for sure.
I reached out to him on Twitter, and I said to him that if whatever he needs the word spread or whatever, all he has to do is ask.
Yeah.
So
no, and as you being a father, me being a father, like he just had his baby, and that's what hurts the most. It's like,
oh yeah,
that's what sucks. We interviewed, or not interviewed. He was on our show, and he had known, and we didn't. And so that was like, looking back on it, it was like, oh my God, like what he, not being able to tell us and stuff like that. So yeah, my prayers and thoughts are with him. We're going to be doing this 24-hour stream that was set up by Sean Sullivan, the Star Wars player for the Den. And I don't know what they're making a channel for it, or its own channel or whatever. So that you still make sure to watch Twitter, and when we'll be tweeting all that out. We'll be doing that. And then
be sure to tag me in that. I'll definitely help get the word out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely tag you in that. And then we got the teams tournament coming up. We'll talk about that. And then after that, the new year, we're gonna be doing. Our channel's gonna be doing a lot of new stuff. So it's gonna be very interesting. It's crazy. I never envisioned myself doing all this stuff. But it's fun. It's super fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun to do it. The people that amuse me the most are the people are like, "Oh, I'm going to do a podcast. It's going to be so easy." Ha 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 ha. No, it's not. There's a lot of shit that goes on in the background. You got to sync up schedules, and that, in my opinion, that's the hardest part, is syncing up schedules to make shit happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, Justin lives in Alabama. Me and Ferris both live in California, and Bador lives in Kuwait. So when we do our live streams, it's 4 a.m. for her most of the time.
Ouch.
Yeah. So it's very hard to sync up schedules, and then you're syncing up schedules with competitors, managers. When we did our Christian interview, who we've been trying to get, it's like, hey, are you available? And they'll be like, yeah, this is when I'm available. So like, there was the 1 week. That's why we all got burnt out at one point. Is the 1 week we did 3 interviews straight, because that's when they were only available. So we did 3 interviews straight and our live stream. So we did 4 shows that week. I was so tired.
Oh wow!
Because each interview was like an hour and a half, and then the Friday shows, we tried not to go hour and a half. We ended up always going 2 hours. So I was miserable that week. The Christian interview was 2 hours. So it's a lot.
Yeah, he's another one I wouldn't mind picking his brain about, like, just because he's actually one of my biggest influences. Between him and Schnapp, the biggest influences for me to start doing this. And God, I would love to have talked to Schnapp, just to sit down and just drink coffee with him, just to talk just random bullshit.
Yeah.
He just seemed like a really cool dude.
Koi. Yeah, it was nice talking to Koi, because he talked about Schnapp a lot yesterday.
Like, I would love just to talk to Koi, just to pick his brain. And he seems like he would be the type of person he would play Magic. I could be totally wrong on that, but he seems like he would be within the wheelhouse of doing something like that. But I mean, especially just talking comics, because
Oh yeah, he kind of got me back into possibly collecting comics. He was hyping them up so much yesterday. So I told him, I said, I might go to a
Isn't
comic
it
shop and start
amazing?
buying
You
some.
come across somebody that's like that. You're like, oh, I've been out of doing this forever. And then you come across somebody, you're like, oh, you got to check this out. You got to check that out. You're missing this story. You're missing that story. And then it's one person, one interview, one talk. Doesn't matter what it is. And it just,
Exactly.
because they're so jacked on the thing, it's like, and they're like, okay, you catch the bug again. It's like, okay, I got to do this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
for sure.
he definitely exudes that. And that's one thing that has always made me gravitate to him. That's why I loved when he took over Heroes. Well, it wasn't just him; it was him and I can't think of what her name is to save my life.
I know who you're talking about, the girl with the glasses.
Yeah, they both exuded that energy, and it's like you like, for me, Fantastic Four wasn't a thing that I really was like, oh yeah, it's a Fantastic Four, big deal, first family of Marvel, not a big thing for me. But then I hear them talk about it, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should pay attention to this.
Right. No, I totally
So,
agree. It's awesome.
all right, well, we are way over time.
Yeah.
And it
What
was
happens when you're
totally,
having fun?
oh yeah, totally worth it. Thank you again. I mean, I guess the only thing that's left to do is to do plugs. So I will let you go first, being that you were my guest tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Like I said, you can find me on the Let's Get Ready to Talk Schmodown podcast with Justin Ferris and Bedore. We're always hanging out there talking Schmodown and doing watch alongs, watching football games on the weekend, playing video games on Twitch. And like I said, some big stuff is coming for the new year. So yeah, and then you can find me on Twitter on ShigKnight323. And yeah, you just watch out for those tweets and all that good stuff. And we'll definitely be standing out information about the Smashathon for Kevin Smiths.
All right. And as always, any social media platform you can find me, just look up Hotel Nerd, Facebook group, Facebook page, on Twitter. My handle is right here on screen. I always keep it up there so that way people can just find me quick and easy. Send me a direct message. I'll always respond. I might not be prompt on responding because 9 out of 10 times I'm probably at work. But with that said, I will get back to you. If you want to be on an episode of Let's Talk, I mean, that's the format of this show, is to get fellow fans on. Like tonight was Magic the Gathering. The next one that we're going to try to do is Harry Potter, which was actually supposed to be earlier this week. Well, it's actually supposed to be yesterday, but my one friend John got hit by the hurricane overnight, and they're currently without power as far as I know. So thoughts and prayers to the Gulf Coast again, 7th time this year. But yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun talking Magic. I definitely didn't expect it to go this long, but I mean, it was totally worth it. Especially talking tournaments and whatnot, because that's one thing I always wanted to do, but never got around to doing. But yeah, I mean, let's do this again sometime. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Anything. I talk anything, man. As long as I know it, I'll talk it. If I don't know it, then I'll find out about it. But usually, I'm pretty good at talking. I know most stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if I put up a thing that because I try to do episode lists. If you see something, by all means, message me and I'll put you on the list.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I
Thank you.
think I
Thank you for having
actually
me.
may have you. I think I might have you actually on the list for one other one, maybe. No, I don't. I thought I did. But the next one, like I said, is going to be Harry Potter. And then we're going to do probably the MCU after that.
Nice.
So, well, with that said, well, thank you for being on. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me.
It was a very fun talk. Sorry about the trolls.
That's all
And
right.
that's actually one thing I did want to address real quick before we left. If you're trolling, you're immediately going to get blocked. I'm not doing timeouts anymore because apparently, as of tonight, showing me is two things. Is one, I need to find a moderator for the video when we're doing this, and two, I'm not dealing with the troll bullshit. You
Yeah.
want to troll?
You don't need to do it.
This is not the place for it. I mean, I know the election's coming up. I'm so fed up with the damn election that it's not even funny. So if that's the shit that you want to spew on through the chat, that you're gonna get blocked. People want to get pissy about it, then you get pissy about it. It's my channel, so guess what? That's my rules. But with that being said, have a good night. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Anybody wants to get involved in any more episodes, I'm going to put the full list of episodes are coming. Anybody wants to jump on something, by all means, let me know. I'll get you guys on the list. That's the whole point of the show is to get fans talking to fans. So let's have fun. Let's have a good talk. That's the whole point. But with that,
Yep.
talk to you later.